Hello there, and welcome to How to Start a Board Game Company. I'm Jay Cormier from Off the Page Games. Now today we're talking about shipping, and this one specific video has been a long time in making because it just felt like I had more to say, and I probably could have split this up into many installments. It is a beast. Shipping is a beast, and I'm going to start this whole thing by saying I'm not an expert. I don't have a lot of necessarily insights on how to do things, but I've learned some things, and I'm going to show you what I've done, and I'm sure numerous people can respond to this video saying, Jay, there's a few other ways you could have done this, smarter ways or better ways, and I'd love to hear it. But at least you can learn a few things, because definitely there are some tips in here on how to ship. So first thing you're going to do, you're going to download from your Pledge Manager or Kickstarter all your backers, all their addresses and whatnot. Actually, at this point, it doesn't even matter about the addresses, with the exception of you need to know which country they're from, because the first point is what you're going to be doing is you're just going to be making sure that you have the right quantities per country. This is going to matter if you're using multiple fulfillment companies. If you're sending everything to one fulfillment company and then they're sending out, then you can just ignore this step. But I had to send some to each different fulfillment company around the world. I had to make sure we had one in North America, one in Europe, one in Australia, one in Asia. It's hard to know if you need to go this route. You just got to cost it out. You got to contact them and figure out what the costs are. I know for me, for my manufacturer, for every additional port besides the first one that they wanted to send to was an extra $400 just flat for that. So they're like, ugh. And then you obviously have to pay for any kind of boat or container or shipping fees to get it to there. That's costly. But compare that to sending however many units you have from, say, one location in the US and sending how many to Australia and how many to Asia. If it's only a handful, probably better to keep one fulfillment company and just do it. But if you're getting up to 100, 200, 300 units per each of these locations, it'd probably be best to look into getting multiple fulfillment companies. Okay, so when you are downloading this list to determine your quantities, that's going to help you figure out, okay, how many should you send, but also add in 5 to 10% more per location so that they can handle parts replacement as well as just errors, things that have gone wrong, because things go wrong. Surprise. And you're going to want to make sure they have extra on hand, and especially if you have a deluxe and a normal retail level kind of package, make sure they have 5-10% extra of each of those so they can handle that. One thing I had to learn almost the hardest way was that I was using GameFound, and I must have downloaded the wrong list or didn't filter it properly, but my list had everybody who's ever entered into GameFound for my game, my management, and even if they canceled afterwards, they were still aligned in this Uber master spreadsheet. So I guess I downloaded the master spreadsheet. I probably should have asked for more specific help to figure out which exact thing I should have downloaded, because that's what I started with, and we were days away from actually shipping actual units, where I noticed something weird, and when I looked into it, I'm like, oh my goodness, there was about 200 extra lines in there that of people that have canceled or upgraded their pledge or down, or all sorts of different things that I would have been out, and that would have cost over $6,000 of $1,000 of a mistake that I caught. So just make sure, just do a double check to make sure that the list you're downloading is an accurate list. Now, your option is to keep your Pledge Manager open or not after you do this, is up to you. I said I had an April 1st deadline of like, hey, the Pledge Manager is open to that date. After April 1st, I took all the data, and that helped me determine the quantities for everywhere. At this point, I also, and this is optional depending on what you're doing, I have my manufacturer airship me some units. I only chose 5 units to me so that I could send some games to reviewers. And so this is good if you have a plan to get your game out in some other way, maybe through distributors or through an online sales, Amazon, what have you. If there's ways for people to get your game after Kickstarter, then this might be a good option, because then by the time they get they're going to get the games way earlier than anyone else. They're going to get their work on the reviews, because it might take a month, 2 months, 3 months just for them to get to it, because they have potentially a backlog of games depending on who you choose to review it. And then by the time they come out, it's around the time that other people have the games, or it's available for online sales. So you don't want your first reviews coming out 2, 3, 4 months after it's available for retail, because that just feels like a wasted opportunity of buzz and excitement. So that's something to think about. Now, as far as when it gets to actual shipping, you have to determine, there's a couple different ways you can do it. Option one is you can have your manufacturer figure out the shipping and securing of the boats. They can have that do that. Or option two, you can do that. If you know how to do that and figure that all out, you can. I didn't know anything about that. So being my first real-time shipping games, I had my manufacturer, I trusted them to figure out all the boats. So they secured the boats for all the different locations that they had to go to. And then you're going to need what's called a shipping forwarder. And this is going to be somebody from your fulfillment partners. For each of your, if you have one or if you have multiple, you have to juggle and you have to contact each of your fulfillment partners saying, hey, who's the shipping forwarder? Connect them, in my case, with the manufacturer so that they can talk to each other because they need to organize once the games that has come across on the boat and have docked at a dock. Then the shipping forwarder needs to then take those games and get them to the fulfillment center. In between that, there's going to be potentially a custom broker you're going to need. I know we needed that for the States. I needed that. And Canada, but I haven't needed that. I guess maybe my fulfillment partners kind of handled that for the other ones. And this is just someone to pay for all the taxes and duties and whatnot. And again, you can get either a fulfillment partner or your manufacturer can probably help you out find one of these, or ask other publishers if they have people to recommend. And then so you have to pay for the customs. Sometimes you even have to pay for extra storage at a dock if you're not fast enough. And so one lesson I learned is that when they send you this bill saying, hey, we have your games, here's the fees for duties and taxes and blah, 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 and handling and whatnot, that day I got it, I went on and did a global money transfer from my bank in Canada to them, and it was, it says completed, done, sent, great. And a few days passed by, another days, I'm like, and I email them like, what's happening? They're saying we haven't received it yet. I'm like, what? They haven't received it yet? And so I'm going back and forth, and it's just a global money transfer takes 3 or 4 days for a bank just to process. And so because of that, I had to pay some extra fees for storage of another couple days, and they're just frustrating. So the very next time I had to do this for a different country, for Canada, I just paid by a credit card and paid the extra 3% fee you have to pay, because this is like anywhere from $200 to $600 that you're paying for this, depending on everything. So I will probably recommend doing that so you don't pay the extra storage fees. It's better to pay the 2% than the extra storage fees. And then the shipping forwarders gets all of those goods, the games, to the fulfillment centers, and then it's fulfillment time. Sweet. Now here's a tip that I didn't do and I should have done. I should have re-downloaded the addresses from my pledge manager at this point. Even though I said April 1st, I'm cutting off the pledge manager. That's when I'm pulling all the data. I needed that data to determine the order quantities. How many are going to Asia? How many are going to Europe? How many are going to all this kind of stuff? I needed that quantity, so to lock it in. And I closed the pledge manager. But people, even though I said that, 16 people still went in after that date and changed their address. So I probably could have locked it down tight, but I kept it open because there was still over 50 people that haven't given me their address at all. And so I still had to keep it open to get those addresses. So it was a bit of a conundrum. The solution is re-download it again at a certain point and even communicate it saying, hey, I'm going to be downloading the final thing as of this day, and give them one last chance. Because of that, 16 games got sent to the wrong addresses. Customers are upset because they're like, you sent it to the wrong address. And now it's a bit of a like, oh, I told you, but you don't want to obviously peeve off your customers because it's not like they did anything wrong. Maybe they missed that one update. You send so many updates. How many times is everyone going to read them? That said, that's something I should have done, and that's a big tip for me to you. Now, you also want to talk to your fulfillment partners before they start shipping to make sure you understand what level of detail and care they're going to be taking with the game. Ask what options you have for packing. Is there a bare bones one that costs super cheap but is potentially going to be high in damages? And maybe even they have some percentages of how many games get damaged because of this? Or is there a more expensive option but is going to be better for packaging? So ask, maybe even they take pictures. Mine took a picture of saying, here's what it looks like, all packaged up. You can see all the bubble wrap. I'm like, oh, cool. And then communicate to your backers along the way. Every little step, the progress that you're making through the Kickstarter updates. But also remember, and I forgot about this as well, is that you have your late backers, and they don't have access to the Kickstarter updates like everyone else. Like, they don't see them; they're not pushed to them. So make sure you go into your pledge manager and add an update to them as well, so they feel like they're in the loop. Otherwise, they have no communication that anything's happening at all. So yikes. And then you're going to want to keep, once everything starts shipping, you're going to want to keep a spreadsheet of all the errors that have happened with shipping, that people that didn't get the right thing, or even parts replacement. If like this thing is broken or this thing is damaged, right off the bat, if there's damages, I know that my fulfillment partners have asked for pictures of the shipping box itself, because then they can send that to whoever they ask and use to ship the game, to try to get compensation back for that specific thing, saying, hey, this corner got really damaged and it damaged the game, etc., etc. We are all out. I'm going to be out the unit, the game that I have to reship, but the fulfillment center is going to pay for the reshipping of it, because they're going to get that compensated by the manufacturer, the shipper, like the FedEx or whoever they use to ship. But that's part of the business. You got to account for a certain percentage of damages and dings, and definitely parts is going to be an issue. This is now coming back to, how much of a partnership you had with your fulfillment partners, your manufacturer, sorry, and how good they are. And I know my game is super complicated with all these different little packages, sealed packages and stuff. So I might be seeing this for quite some time because people haven't opened all those sealed packages yet. So they'll probably be experiencing more and more issues. But so far it's been very manageable. The best way to do is create a spreadsheet for each fulfillment center and share it with them, and give them editing power so that they can add in when they've done it. And then you just send them an email saying, hey, I've added 2 more. Can you please send these parts? In order to make this work, what I've done is I created this whole spreadsheet of every single component in my game, and gave it a title so I can call it a very specific thing. Make sure you call it deluxe or retail, depending on if you have that option. Make sure it's specified, and then I actually added a picture of it. So now when I tell them, hey, can you give this customer this specific part, they know exactly what to send them. Couple notes on this is, one, if you can, before printing, get your manufacturer to print an extra couple sets of all components, so that you have these loose, so you don't have to raid existing copies just to fulfill extra parts. That it would be huge. Now, as far as when it gets to parts replacement, you have 2 options: either do it all yourself, or you're going to have partners that do it for you. If you're small, you're probably just going to do it all yourself. Send all the stuff to you. The cost now is going to get higher because now you got to ship to Europe, and you got to ship to South America. You got to ship everywhere that anybody has an issue, and you got to ship it. So that's just part of the business, and I mean, that's part of the business. You can obviously complain to your manufacturer afterwards, with depending how many there are, but there's got to be some room for error for sure. But that's part of your cost of business. Or if you're not doing it yourself, then you can maybe partner with your fulfillment company. They can often do some parts replacements, because they often have been shipped, as I said before, 5 to 10% more games, so they can potentially raid from those games and ship from them. But they'll need that spreadsheet to indicate exactly which component is which. And that is maybe it. That's the specifics, the nitty gritty of shipping. There's probably lots I'm missing, and I probably didn't do everything the best possible way. But those are the lessons I've learned so far. As you can see, I made a few missteps, but this is me learning and trying to do it better next time. And hopefully now you can do it better on your next time. So thanks so much for listening, and have a good one.